Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. This is the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Michael McDowd. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a trivia question. Today's trivia theme is miscellaneous trivia. Also want to welcome our latest additional station, AM 1550 SLC Sports Radio in Salt Lake City and throughout the Salt Lake area, with a special thanks to Program Director Dino Costa. And in our next segment, Mike, you've got a guest for us.
I'm just glad to know there's sports fans in Salt Lake City, by the way, so that I feel good about that. And let's hear it for the good folks out there. But yeah, got a really special guest. We've been really blessed to do a lot of what I consider profound shows, different types of people that we get to interview that you don't typically hear on a sports show. And my next guest is a one of a kind, unique human being. His name is Patric Young. He hails from the metropolis of the bold city, which is known as Jacksonville, Florida. That's in the United States of America, by the way. And Patric is a guy that played high school basketball here, was a big star for a great school. We'll tell you about that. Went on to the University of Florida to play for the Mighty Gators, by the way, the current defending national champions. And his story is one of hope and perseverance. We're going to talk about how one day in his life changed his entire trajectory and perspective. And he's a guy that's going to captivate hearts and minds, and he's got a message of hope. And we are so fortunate to look forward to have on Patric Young. He's going to be a great conversation today.
All right, audience, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mike McDowd, and we have a special guest. Mike, can you introduce him, please?
Absolutely. Want to say hello and welcome in a young man who I just met really last week. He came down to my church, Our Lady Star of the Sea in Ponte Vedra, Florida, and he spoke to our men's group. And his name is Patric Young. If you don't know Patric's story, you will right now. And his story has captivated the hearts of America and our world internationally. Patric Young is a guy that really is a star basketball player, but that doesn't define who he is whatsoever. He grew up in Jacksonville, as I mentioned, went to Providence College Prep, a great basketball school in Jacksonville, Florida. Then received a little welcome by head coach Billy Donovan at the University of Florida, where he went on to play for the Gators from, I believe, 2010 to 2014, and then had a little taste of the National Basketball Association. But all the basketball stuff aside, Patric Young is a man that really, again, speaks to the hearts and minds of everyone, especially those who have endured hardship. Patric, thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you recently, and to be honest, I'm honored to have you on the show.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time. Let's get into it.
Patric, your story is remarkable. It's incredible. Where do we start? I think certainly we want to talk a little bit about your basketball days, but then we want to shift the conversation into your life today, because it is something that you are able to share, and you are able to inspire people who have really gone through the toughest times in their life. But I guess, where would you like to start? You want to start with basketball and kind of transition a little bit?
I think you're the host. You're the one that's supposed to guide the conversation.
But yeah, tell us a little about your basketball days, and then we'll transition.
Yeah, born and raised here in Jacksonville, Florida. Had a great childhood. One of those childhoods that you hope one day will become a norm again in this day and age where kids just were kids and played outside all day. And the whole saying of boys will be boys. That's what I got to live as a kid. And great family, played a lot of sports. Growing up, baseball was actually my first sport. And the irony, in my very first baseball team that I played for, the team name was the Gators. So that was a little bit of foreshadowing. God knew what He was doing there, and I was just in the wrong uniform, being in a baseball shirt and pants. Was fortunate and blessed. I played at I went to Paxson School of Advanced Studies here in Jacksonville for 3 years before transferring over to Providence School, where I was fortunate to lead the team to a national state championship. We should have been invited to the national championship stage because we were 31-1. Our one loss being to Montverde, which is a very prestigious high school here in Florida. It's in Montverde, Florida, but kind of near Orlando. Went on with my career after that to play for the just inducted into Hall of Fame, recently inducted into Hall of Fame coach Billy Donovan. Had an awesome career there, ups and downs in terms of learning how to grow into a man and be mature and be a professional, and just grateful for his guidance along the way. One of the favorite things that I achieved, and I'm not going to say it won't ever be broken, but I'm the only 3-time SEC Scholar Athlete of the Year. So I'll be happy if somebody else is able to achieve that, because it's just one of those things that it's outside of just being talented. That I think doing well in school is a character thing, discipline, desire, intention, trying to be excellent, and then after my career in Florida, where my last season we went to a Final Four, I was blessed to be in the NBA for a brief stint, and then played basketball overseas, where I was in Turkey, Greece, Italy, and Israel for about 6 years. And injuries sidelined my career, and I came back to America in 2021, ready to start whatever was next in life.
Can I ask you a quick question too about, so what happened going from the NBA to playing overseas? Was it like a contract that didn't get renewed, or what? How did that transition?
I got cut. I got fired. I got cut.
Okay.
It's
what was it like to play
what?
in Turkey? I can't imagine. I just I don't know much about the culture, and I mean, I guess you had to live there, right?
I had never been there before I went, and after I got cut, because I was in New Orleans, I had a 7-hour drive from New Orleans to Jacksonville with all of my stuff in my Honda Accord. Don't know how it all fit. No idea. But after that drive, a lot of talks to my agents and family, and 2 days later, instead of going to the G League or the D League at the time, I was on a plane and heading over to a country I've heard of but never been to. And 2 days after, actually a day after arriving and going through physicals and all that stuff, they put me on the court, sleep deprived, jet lagged, and everything. And as you can imagine, my first game didn't go that great. But after finally getting some recovery there, I was able to get some great sleep and had a fantastic year on a bad team. Had a great season on a bad team out there in Turkey.
Gotcha. How come? I mean, there's definitely some famous players in Turkey now. Is it a huge sport in Turkey now?
Basketball is a huge sport around the world. So
that's true. Yeah, I mean, some countries though it's like soccer is the big one, but
I mean, soccer is always going to be number one. But no, there's a great amount of fandom all throughout Europe, all throughout Asia, all throughout Africa. It's just a matter of China, Japan, Korea, South Korea, obviously. It's just a matter of where you want to go and what you want to do. the opportunity providing itself.
Hey, Patrick, I know that at the University of Florida, you you scored 1,000 points, one of the 50 players to do that as a Gator in the history of the University of Florida. In your book, we're going to talk about your book. Well, we definitely want to promote this wonderful story that you are sharing to the world. But Patrick, you talked about
it might be a little more advantageous. It might be a little more advantageous in the flow wise to talk about what's happened before the book.
Yeah, well, true, and that's a key question. I love your honesty where you say the NBA was humbling. You said you were the 15th guy in the roster. You were the backup to the backup to the backup. Talk a little about that experience, because that's a gut check, isn't it?
Okay. Hey, Patrick, before you do that,
Yeah, I think.
Patrick, before you do that, we do have to cut to a quick break. When we come back, we definitely want to hear that part of the story. Okay, here's our first trivia question.
Okay.
As a reminder to both Mike and Patrick, if you know the answer, don't say anything quite yet. What color of star has the hottest surface temperature? What color of a star has the hottest surface temperature? So think of all the various colors of what might be considered hot for, when you see a flame, that sort of thing. Okay, that's our trivia question. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mike McDowd, our special guest, Patrick Young. First trivia question: what color of star has the hottest surface temperature?
Patrick, you want to go?
I'm going to go with white.
Okay, Mike.
I'm gonna go with a color that's maybe not so obvious, but I've seen it. I mean, the obvious is so obvious. I'm gonna say blue, maybe.
Yeah, blue. That is the correct answer. It is blue.
That was my second choice. Yep.
That was your second guess. Okay.
There you go.
All right, Mike, go ahead and ask your question again, because Patrick was going to.
Yeah, listen. By the way, our special guest is Patrick Young. Patrick, so happy to have you. We want to welcome you to Sports Econ 101, heard around the country, coast to coast, border to border, and internationally with our U.S. military. Patrick, I know you are on the phone. You can't see this, but in your honor, I'm holding up my Florida Gator hat. So I know you're a proud Gator, and you had you played against Connecticut in the NCAA championship game. Is that correct?
Did I finish in second?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did not play. I did not play in the championship game. No, sir.
But did the Gators play Connecticut though?
We played Connecticut we played Connecticut in the Final Four in the semifinal game.
Okay, that's right.
They beat us.
I know that was a tough game to play, but you had this great success. You played for head coach Billy Donovan, a legend, and then you went on to the NBA. We talked about in your book. I love the fact that you said it was humbling. You were the 15th guy on the roster with the Pelicans, and you said that you were the backup to the backup to the backup. What was that like? Because you were a star at Florida, then as you mentioned, the NBA is a whole different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it was definitely humbling. You see just that there's the culture would say it's levels to this. There's levels, and I was at the bottom of the totem pole. Some guys are just, you can just look and you just know, man, that guy is way more talented than I am, or just way more skilled, et cetera. And I had plenty of guys like that in front of me. It was humbling. It was cool. Helped me to motivate me to get better. But what do? You get mad and get bitter, or you get better. And a phrase that they use in the NBA a lot is stay ready. Like you don't have to get prepared if you stay ready. So that means treating practice, treating all the things that the skill work, the film, as if you are the guy. And mentally, like that's how you approach everything. Because then with that approach, when your number does get called, Because many a times, man, like people want an opportunity, but because like things aren't going their way and they're not in the spotlight, maybe they don't work as hard as they need to be, and then the opportunity comes, and then they're not ready for it. So I didn't want to be one of those guys.
Good for you. Yeah, that to me seems to be harder than being a star, because too many guys you're watching them, they're sitting on the bench that they got to be good because they're in the NBA, but then you hardly ever get to see them play, and it's like, okay, your coach is saying, I'm giving you a chance. You really got to prove yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why that's why I'm a fan of NIL in terms of not I'm not a fan of where we are with it, but I'm a fan of the good that can come from it. Just think about players that had really good college careers, but it just doesn't pan out for them to play as professionals. And you're 23 to 27 years old, and you never really had a chance to make any money. That's why it's like, if look at Jordan Travis here recently, Florida State football quarterback, got injured at Florida State, was able to get drafted to go to the NFL, has to retire at 25. He has a bunch of money in his pocket to go to, because he spent these athletes, they spend all of their lives dedicated to trying to make it to become a professional, and it just discrimination or adversity does not discriminate, right? There's been plenty of athletes that we've thought are going to have great careers in the future in the pros, and they have injuries, and that's it. Like, what's next? So
isn't the starting even the lowest salary still pretty good though in the NBA compared to baseball, isn't it?
I don't know that for sure, but just baseball, their contracts are fully guaranteed.
Sure.
That's true.
Is the only sport that does that.
I think football, like the minimum is like, let's say 300,000, which is good for the average worker, but for someone who has a career extended or anticipated career of 3 to 5 years, it's not big. But I thought the NBA was like 800,000 minimum or something. Be wrong, but
I'm not sure, but at least now, like when I was coming out of college, I think the most that you could make in the G League was like $25,000 from the year.
Yeah, that's right.
So now things have changed drastically. I think there's a minimum of 100 and something thousand that those players are making. So it makes it a lot easier to want to stay in America, at least, to hopefully get your number called to go to the NBA maybe one day.
Gotcha.
Well, Patric, one of the things that's interesting, you are no stranger to TV and radio. You do a lot of this. You're on the SEC network on ESPN. You've got your own sports talk show in Jacksonville on Action News Jax. And I'm also associated with that network as well. But one of the beautiful gifts you have is you have the ability to tell stories. And I'll tell you, as I just mentioned, I just heard Patric speak, and the game of basketball is very near and dear to his life. But Patric, you wrote a book. It's called Sick to Rise, Turning Your Darkest Pain into Your Brightest Victory. I'm holding up the copy right here, and I have a place marked. I'm going to read just a tiny little paragraph. By the way, it's on page 3. This is how you basically start out the book, and I think this is where you can beautifully articulate your story. And then this is, you asked the question, why did I write this book? Well, I'd be satisfied with impacting just one person with my story. My honest hope and desire is to reach as many people as possible and to deliver the hope that is found in the greatest story ever told. And in parentheses, it says, spoiler alert, it's not mine. I think that's a great way to have you tell us about how one day in Nebraska that changed your life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that and having the segment. I think it's I don't know how much time we have, but it would be remiss to talk about the book before we.
I'm sorry, Patrick. We got about 2.5 minutes in this segment, and then we got another segment right after the break. So if you don't finish now, we'll continue on.
Okay, understood. We should have talked through this before we did the show a little bit more, so we could have flowed a little bit better. But yeah, back in 2021, I was done playing basketball. Still kind of had the itch that I wanted to, and just wasn't quite sure. I had so many injuries. I loved the game. Just was ready for God to make it clear. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to keep trying to play basketball, or do you want me to just see what comes next? And it just seemed as though the stars were aligning for me to move to the next chapter. At that year in 2021, I reconnected with my ex-wife, but at the time, my wife then. I got a job with the SEC Network, and then I also had another job I got hired for with working with Tim Tebow's for-profit company. So that year, I'm just, gosh, what's next? I'm super excited. I'm getting married soon. I got a great job. I'm working in basketball. And little would I have known that 6 months after getting engaged that I was going to be in a car accident that changed everything for me. I had a whole vision for I think any of us would anticipate, we know there's going to be some challenges that happen here and there in our lives, but I was completely just caught off guard with, facing the fact that I might not walk again, that, this whole vision I had for my life, that there's a lot of things I'm not going to be able to do anymore, et cetera, which was obviously a lot, really too difficult to grasp. And through having just a great family, great friends, having a foundation of faith, it helped me to just say, hey, this thing happened. Okay. It doesn't have to define you. It'll define you if you want it to. But do you believe that God has called you to greater things, that God is not surprised by what's happened in your life? And if you believe that, let's take this thing head on. There's so much that we don't know in life because we just think and either we put ourselves in the box or we put God in the box. It's one of the two. And having this kind of free mindset of I'm just grateful for the day. I'm grateful for the things I've done. I'm grateful for the things that are to come. I think it's given me fresh eyes. And that's what allowed me to write the book. That's what allowed me to begin speaking and sharing my story. That's what's allowed me to see the good and impact people's lives. And I wouldn't say I haven't gotten to a global level yet, but I'm the only way I'm going to stop is if I stop breathing. So I'm just super grateful for all that's come, and really excited to share more.
Oh, that's great. Hey, we're going to cut to a break. This is great stuff and very, very extremely inspiring, Patrick. Okay, here's a quick second trivia question. Which mineral is known as fool's gold? Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back.
Good question.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Mike McDowd, our special guest, Patrick Young. Second trivia question. Which mineral is known as fool's gold? What's the answer, guys?
Patrick?
Oh, I don't know that one.
You don't know that one? Mike, what's the answer?
I'm going to take a wild guess. Is it ore?
No, pyrite. Remember? Don't you remember that as kids? Pyrite. Hey, I found some gold. I found some gold, and we're going to know it's pyrite. Okay, we are in the studio, so to speak. Patrick's on the phone. Go ahead, Mike.
Listen, our very distinguished guest, Patrick Young, and I'm just so happy to have him. And he's talking about his life and how it changed. And Patrick, as I, tell the audience how we met recently, you captured our hearts in our men's group with your story. And I think one of the beautiful things is you went through this life-changing experience. You are still enduring with it. You've been to months and months of rehabilitation. You told us how you were coming along, and all of a sudden you wound up back in the hospital. I think you spent 8 or 9 months there. So the journey of getting strong is a daily process, and not only is it a daily process, but you believe in your heart and soul that you will walk again. Is that?
I'm not sure if that's fair to say. I don't think that's
Okay.
accurate.
That's not accurate?
I believe no, I believe God is capable of all, and I don't have the answers. It's tough because I know people mean well, and I mean well, but I'll have random strangers. So what's going to happen? Are you going to walk? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
it's not something I can just make happen. So with that, and I know again, people mean well when they ask because they want that for me. They want that so badly, but people are caught off guard if I'm gonna say no, I'm not. I don't know the answer to that question. So it's and this is not to make anybody feel bad. That's not what I'm trying to get to. The purpose of that is like how many things in our lives do we not have the answer to? And obviously my physical disability is obvious, and like visually you can see that, but it's like, isn't life so much more than just what we see? Isn't life so much more than like if we literally sat on our hands and said, okay, I'm not going to really live life, or life isn't going to really mean until I have the answer to this thing that I endure or am enduring, or a decision was made, my heart was broken, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to really know. Like, what kind of life would it be if we just said, okay, until that thing happens, then I'll really start living my life? It's like life is now. It is right now. Like every single day, it's a gift and a blessing. It seriously is. Like I think because we don't see the number of people that are dying and suffering every day, maybe it's a part of us that gets maybe a little naive or arrogant to think, okay, like it's not that like yeah, sure, I should be grateful for today, but like of course I was gonna wake up tomorrow. Like, no, we didn't have any control over that. And when I think you get back to the simple. Just because truth is simple doesn't mean it's simplistic. Doesn't mean like it's easy to accept. A lot of people don't want to accept truth because it means like, all right, who am I? Like, how do I operate out of that? How do I operate out of a truth or reality where I don't know if I'm going to walk again? Instead of focusing on what I don't have, what I can't do, what I don't know, I have zero control over that. What do I have control over? I have control over my attitude. Have control over the way that I'm deciding to live and see my life, my perspective, my words, how I show up for people in my life, my relationships, my faith. I have control over my faith. All right, Pat, are you deciding to live today in fear or in faith? Fear and faith, one thing the major thing they have in common, they're both one of the things they have in common, based on something that hasn't happened yet. So if it hasn't happened and I can choose to be more so on the side of faith, that's where I'm going to be, and that's where I hope that many people can lean to. Because again, of the things that I can control, they have a direct impact on what? Today. And the more that we can build up that muscle of gratitude, of positivity, of belief, the stronger it's going to be. Because like, yeah, this is hard what I'm going through, but there's people that have it much harder.
Yeah.
There's something tomorrow could be the hardest day of my life. I thought I could say and think, oh, I've already gone through some really hard. Tomorrow could be the hardest day of my life coming up here. And again, this is just to grasp truth. So how do we have a perspective? We got to live for today, man. We got to live for today.
And Patric, you went through surgeries with your situation, and you rehabbed, and then you come upon stumbling blocks. You wound up back in the hospital, as I mentioned. I think for 8 or 9 months, I believe you said. So it wasn't. This is not a one-day occurrence. This is a journey. It's a marathon, isn't it?
Yeah. You're correct. Yeah, it was something. So going through the accident and being in the hospital, that initial stay, you're like, okay, like we're good. Like I've gone through the hardest part, and had no idea. There's a large number of people, especially with disabilities, that die from infections. You get an infection, it doesn't get treated or caught early enough, and then you go into sepsis. I was probably maybe a day away from going into septic shock and dying.
Wow.
I finally went to the hospital when I had a fever of 105, and it's like my brain was starting to shut off. It was pretty scary and crazy going back and thinking about it. But yeah, I was in the hospital for 150 days in 2023, and that was needless to say, that was one of the most difficult periods of my life, of being in the hospital for that long.
And Patrick, I got to tell you, I know I briefly shared my story with you about my own near-death experience, but what I didn't tell you is you said sepsis. I just got out of the hospital a couple months ago battling sepsis and E. coli. So I really have a profound
Wow.
understanding of what that's like. It's very, very dangerous. I didn't know how sick I was, but I was pretty sick. So I'm glad you didn't endure that.
Man.
But
When it gets in the bloodstream, man, when it gets in the bloodstream, it can shut it all down. It's so scary.
Yeah, the doctors and nurses were so great to me at Beaches Hospital in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. And boy, I'm so grateful for them. But Patrick, one of the things that Edward and I would be totally remiss, and I know if we don't ask you this question, we're not doing and really we don't have a job, but this is a conversation. I consider you a friend and a brother in Christ. I just met you, but that's the way I feel about you. To endure what you endured, and you spoke very candidly about this, you often don't get an opportunity to talk about your relationship with Christ because of the secular media. And on this show, we want to give you that forum to talk about the love of Christ and how he is able to strengthen and sustain you. Because without him, is it not true? You couldn't endure this, could you? I don't think any of us can.
Yeah. I don't think I'd really be able to endure this, because what happens in our lives sometimes, we end up putting godly expectations on other people, maybe to be a savior, not necessarily our savior. I mean, some people do. They might look to family and friends as being lean, and it's just too much weight. And I don't think anyone can bear. Like, what can my mom, my dad, and my sister, like, they can be there for me and they can help and fulfill my physical needs, right? What about my spiritual, my emotional, my mental, those areas? And I like to say this, God is not the main dish. And if he's the main dish of your life, you're in trouble. God needs to be the table. God needs to be the foundation, the cornerstone. And you put everything else on that table. And it is not a shaky table where one leg of that table is shorter or longer than the other, so it wobbles around. No. And just having that mindset. And look, it's hard when your trial is right in front of your face, and this is what I like, what's helped me having a relationship with God, knowing and understanding that God never said this is going to be easy, you're going to be without trouble, you're going to be without trials, none of that stuff.
In fact,
it's just knowing that he's with me.
In the world, you will have troubles.
Yeah. Says he literally, and he doesn't sugarcoat you. You will, in this world, you will have troubles, trials, etc. But fear not, for I have overcome the world. Like, I think that's one of the most profound scriptures. That one, God saying, like, draw near to me and I will draw near to you. I just don't know where hope comes from when you go through something that's right in your face like this. That's why I'm like, going back, making a decision before any of this stuff happened, that I was going to be faithful to God, as he has always been faithful to me in my life. I was going to trust him, now understanding he could change my circumstances in a second, and that if he was withholding goodness from me, that there's a purpose behind it. Because goodness for me might mean I don't get to go out and reach out and affect this number of people. Because who knows, if I just got up and was able to walk, maybe I wouldn't still be focused on serving. I don't know what all the possibilities are. Things would be different. Would they be better? I don't know. But I'm just so content and happy to be in a place where I'm just got my eyes on Jesus in all of this and what he's already done for me, and the possibilities of what he going to continue to do through me while I'm on this earth.
Hey,
When I was a
go ahead.
I was just going to say really quickly, it's like, when I was a kid, I used to be really scared of death. That's, before I realized I knew Christ, right? And after I came to faith and really kind of started understanding more, I mean, I kind of look forward to it, but obviously not a painful death or anything, but like, to be in eternity
Right.
is so much better
Right.
to live on the earth. But we're here. We got to live in the earth. We got to while we're doing our time here. But go ahead, Mike. We have to go
Oh,
to a
no,
break.
no. I just, Patrick, through this, accident that you went through, and like I said, you're a ball player, you're a champion, you're trained mentally strong, you're trained to be physically strong, but yet it seems to me, and you just tell me if I'm wrong or right, but you're able through your story to shine so much light, and your spirit comes through to really inspire people. And next time you come on our show, you definitely have to see your beautiful face, because you have a great smile. And so, but the whole purpose is that, Patrick, you're able to shine your light. What a gift! Isn't that an accurate statement to say?
I think we're all able to shine our light. It's just a matter of if we choose to do so. I used to meditate. I used to meditate a lot, and I wish I could get back into it. And there's this one meditation that it had you focus on, like, what I love about this type of meditation I did. I was just using Headspace, the app. I think this practice course I went through was called Appreciation, and what they would have you do is visualize that there was a little like imprint of light in the middle of your chest, and then it's just like expanding. It expands through your body, and then once you like fill your body with this light, they want you to visualize that light just expanding as far as you can imagine. And after doing that a few times, I was like, you know what? We have access to this light every single day. Every single one of us. It's just a matter as if we can get, but if you let me finish, it's just a matter as if we are we going to let that light flow? Are we going to let it shine? Do we have stuff that's blocking that light from opening up and shining? And I thought that was just so powerful, and that's something that I always keep with me, and I just use it, man. Shine your light. We all have it inside of us.
All right, stay with. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mike McDowd and our special guest, Patrick Young. And we got to cut out really quickly. So Michael's got your book there. Patrick, go ahead, give us information about you and your book, where people can get a hold of you.
So my name is Patrick Young without the letter K. Patrick, Patric Young. You can just type that in and type foundation, or type in, just type my name in, and my website will come up, patricyoung.com. Same spelling for my Instagram and Twitter, but there's a number 4, so Patrick Young and the number 4 for those. You can find the book, connect with me. I travel and speak. I'm just coming back from Anniston, Alabama, speaking at a church this past weekend. Going to the SEC later this month. I have a big speaking engagement for the SEC, which I'm excited about. So, you can find me there. It's pretty easy. My name is unique, and I'll pop up anywhere.
And his book, Sit to Rise, as Mike has it for our YouTube audience here. All right. Excuse me. All right. Quickly, our thoughts for the day. So why does Goofy stand erect while Pluto remains on all fours? They're both dogs, aren't they? Who knows the answer to that one? You're in Florida. You should know that, Mike. Okay. And did you ever notice that when you blow in a dog's face, he gets mad at you, but when you take him for a car ride, he sticks his head out the window? Seems kind of ironic to me. All right. Patrick Young, thank you again for joining us on Sports Econ 101. Audience, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.